Daniel Ricciardo has been a star of F1 for many years now, since his first season for the Red Bull Racing team back in 2014, where he managed to beat the current four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. Since that, his career in Red Bull Racing was the time when he was able to shine and show his talent with some brilliant overtakes and a win in Monaco Grand Prix, which was the highlight. After he left Red Bull back in 2018, his career hasn't gone smooth as some might have thought, with a win at McLaren Racing last year at Monza as almost the only highlight. So as we now know, the contract between McLaren Racing and racing driver Daniel Ricciardo was torn apart. This means that Daniel Ricciardo, who has been a really hot property in F1 over the last few years, is now out of contract. So what options does he have now? Hello and welcome to the channel. In this channel, we are looking at everything in and around the sport that is Formula One. In this week's episode, we are going to look at the next possible step for Daniel Ricciardo. So for all the inside we now know, stay with us for the next few minutes. Alpine. There were many of the Ricciardo fans hoping for him to maybe get a seat back in Alpine. But as far as the rumors have come lately, Pierre Gasly seems to be the closest candidate to this seat. Especially as this weekend in Zandvoort, he was heard saying something about just finishing the final details. Well, one of the most obvious options for Ricciardo still seems to be Alpine Racing. This is a team he is familiar with, since he was racing with the team during the 2019 and 2020 seasons, although at the time the team was called Renault. These years, he was teammates with both Nico Hülkenberg and Esteban Ocon. In the 2020 season, he was beating Esteban Ocon pretty comprehensively, although it was the first season for Esteban on the team after a year out of the sport. But as you probably know from the Netflix Drive to Survive documentary, Ricciardo and Renault, as it was then called, didn't have the best experience with the separation. We know that Cyril Abiteboul, who was the team principal at the time, did not like the fact that Ricciardo was leaving them after they had committed to him for a longer period. Otmar Schaffauer, who is the team principal now, was recently asked if they would consider taking Daniel back into the team, to which he answered, the team would have no issue in bringing Daniel Ricciardo back should Oscar Piastri not drive for them in Formula One 2023. Daniel has also been the most successful driver for the team in terms of point scoring, since Renault returned to the F1 grid in 2016. Although Alpine might seem like the best option for Ricciardo himself, he is not the only possible replacement after Alonso. There are at least two very strong candidates to the second seat at Alpine. One of them is the AlphaTauri star Pierre Gasly, who has a very strong resume with multiple podiums and a race win in the 2020 Italian Grand Prix. Gasly is also a French driver, which for a French team such as Alpine would mean a lot. The second option would be the Formula 2 rookie Jack Doohan, who has performed great in his first season of F2. Doohan is an Alpine junior, which means that Alpine really believes in his abilities. Haas. Haas as the only American or American-owned team on the grid could seem like a very nice fit for Ricciardo. As we know, Ricciardo is a huge fan of America, and he has expressed that severely when the Formula One circus travels to America. Daniel also has his own house in LA where he seems to spend much of his free time. Haas's team principal Gunther Steiner has reportedly been in contact with Team Ricciardo after his announcement to leave McLaren. It's no secret that Mick Schumacher has underperformed this season, and the fact that his contract expires at the end of this season makes it more and more likely that he won't continue with the team. Ricciardo also has expressed his love for the American motorsport industry, and here especially NASCAR. This might make Haas a perfect fit for Ricciardo, as Gene Haas, the owner of Haas F1 team, also owns the very successful Haas NASCAR team. So if Ricciardo decides to join forces with Haas, that could seem to be a very good fit for both parts. Williams. Now there are not too many teams with available seats for next year, and with the top teams such as Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes full, there aren't too many options for Ricciardo. This means that if he wants to stay in Formula One, his last opportunity might be Williams. Williams has for the last 4 to 5 years been overall the worst team on the grid, but with Nicolas Latifi not performing at the same level as his teammate Alex Albon, it seems like Williams may get rid of him for next year. This might mean that they could take in a driver with much experience to help the team with developing the car. For this job, Ricciardo might be a perfect fit, although it has to be said he is not by any means a cheap driver to hire, so we don't know if Williams even can afford a driver like him. Racing out of F1. Now what we know for sure is that as a former F1 driver, you can certainly get a seat in every other racing series in the world. As we mentioned with the Haas F1 team, we know the fact that Ricciardo loves America, and this makes it a possibility for him to race in some sort of racing series over in America. The most likely series for him to race in is probably IndyCar, which for those of you who don't know is almost like the American version of Formula One. Although the cars here are spec series cars, which means that the cars are the same. The cars are also a whole lot slower than F1 cars, but it's a huge sport, and since the cars are the same, it's very entertaining and you can expect some great racing. There's also possibilities in NASCAR, as we saw just some weeks ago with the F1 legend Kimi Räikkönen taking part in a NASCAR race. Retirement/sabbatical year. And sadly for all Ricciardo fans out there, it might seem like the last option on the table would be to leave F1. Ricciardo has said himself that it could be an option to step away for a while and reflect on his time in F1 and what went wrong at McLaren. This doesn't necessarily have to mean that he will retire if he doesn't have a seat for next year, but he might do what drivers such as Ocon and Albon, just take a year out of the sport and come back after a year and hopefully be as strong as ever. Daniel was even heard saying that he was thinking of a sabbatical year out of F1 and coming back for 2024 last weekend at Monza, talking to Red Bull driver Sergio Perez. So this might look like the most likely option for now, but as we know, things can change in a second in F1, so stay tuned for more F1 news on this channel. Hope you liked the video. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and thank you for watching. See you next time.